Hello team, hope you are well. The reason being I'm creating this video today is just to talk about generating leads from community. I know it's very, I mean it's all, there is always a gold mine in communities, especially the big communities like Reddit, GitHub, Stack Overflow, or maybe n8n. uh, n8n has itself has their own community. So there the people goes, they write their problem statement, want to talk to the relevant people, but obviously it's overwhelming. It's always overwhelming. There are lots of information that you have to navigate, that you have to go through to find out the right information, to find out the right person to talk to, right? So I thought, why not I should create a simple workflow that can help me to get the leads from n8n. So that's why I wanted to create this video and wanted to share my experience, how I build a simple workflow that helps me to get the leads from n8n community to my Slack over here. So I'll explain this in three phases, I would say. Why three phases? Because obviously when I was building it, I had more and more ideas coming into my mind, how I can make it more better, how I can optimize it more. Again, the disclaimer, there could be more ways to do this job, like you can run a scrapper and all that stuff. But I guess I thought this might be a more simpler one to do it. So let me explain this step by step. So first of all, RSS feed is something that helps you to fetch the information from that respective platform. Fortunately, or you can say, it's a luck that n8n community is built on Discourse, and Discourse has its own RSS feed built in on them. And it becomes very simple that if you can just type latest.rss into it, it can fetch all the information out of it from n8n for you, whatever the information that you want. But obviously here you need to select if you want that information to be run every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, or maybe even custom, right? You can write the custom expressions over here as well. Anyways, so let me pick up every hour, right, and go back. So this is the first simple step. You need to select the node from here, from the RSS. Like this is the RSS feed that or RSS feed trigger from here that I picked, and I put it over here, right? And then I created this small code in JavaScript. Okay, so these are the customized codes that you write to make your workflow better. If you don't know about them, if you don't have any experience about them, you can simply ask ChatGPT, and it can help you to write those JavaScript nodes. You need to do some back and forth in it, but you will get definitely a quality JavaScript node that you can write it over here. So why I wrote this JavaScript node? First of all, because I want the information. Like if you see, there is a small code, return items. Like I want the items to be returned from the community in this format, which is about title, URL, and blob. So this way I won't get lost, and I'll be getting exactly what I want from the community, right? So that's why this route is being written. And how to write this code? Simple. There is a node kind of JavaScript JS kind of code kind of there is a JavaScript code or Python code or custom code that you can write over here. I mean, you can just write code and it will give you the right JavaScript code over here, right? The next step is normalize. Okay, so what does it mean by normalize? So normalize mean is to get the information in a more structured way. For example, if you see here, you can, it's self-explanatory. The code itself is self-explanatory, but let me explain you. The title, the URL, what sort of URL? So I gave it a structure, and then the slug, like this is a default structure in the community, and then the slug, what the person is talking about, and then the blob, see, the snippet, the small snippet. So this would make it quite clean for you to digest. That's why we write this normalize function. The normalize mean is to clean the data and to take out all the unnecessary information out of it. And then the high intent filter. Now obviously if you could go back to this RSS feed signal, it just talk about the latest RSS feed. Now in n8n community, people might be talking about so many things, so many problem statements, so many issues. I mean, it would be quite spammy to handle all that information in your Slack. I mean, if that would be a case, you don't need that information in a Slack. You just go to the n8n community and find that information over there by navigating it. So it's very important that this is quite an important factor of the of this workflow, which is about putting up a high intent filter. Now, high intent filter means I want to get the title, like the title of the post that contains error, like the word, the keyword that can contain errors. Similarly, timeout or Zapier. Okay, so these are just the three keywords that I initially picked. Obviously, I can pick more keywords over here just by adding conditions. I can copy this JavaScript code over here. I can just say, I can pick the contain and the string, and I can pick the contains from here. I can even pick to equals to. When I say equals to, that means it would exactly be like this. If the post has some more information around it, or the more content around it, more keywords around it, it won't going to fetch it. So contain means like there is a whole lot of information, and that information contain the keyword of Zapier. So this way, everywhere, wherever people are talking about the Zapier, I'll get the post pushed into my Slack or into my output channel, right? So that's why this post is all about. Let me delete it. I mean, just for the experiment, so I used 3 keywords initially just to give you guys an idea. Okay, so if I go back, the last but not the least is a Slack. So here you need to write this code again, because you need a message like lead found. I can write anything, lead extracted or something. It's up to you, whatever that you want to write over here. Like, it's the way you will get the message in your Slack. JSON title and the JSON URL, right? So this is the way, simple text message that I'm writing here, the way I'll be getting the information from the n8n community, right? There is a whole lot of process how to add Slack into your workflows. That is something we can talk about in some other walkthrough, but it's quite self-explanatory. You can go there. Let's suppose this is the Slack that I picked. I can pick maybe something else, and then go there. I can this is the URL that I have created. Anyways, so I just don't go over here in detail. This is something that you can add. You need to connect. You can connect maybe an email. You can connect maybe your Telegram channel, your WhatsApp, or maybe anything else, wherever you are comfortable, wherever you think you need to get the information from. So if you execute this workflow from here, it would run, and then it would pass this information, and workflow executed successfully, it would push the message into Slack. This is the most simple workflow that I built initially. But then later on, I thought, why not I add more communities over here? Why should I just stick to n8n? What about GitHub? What about Stack Overflow? And what about the other communities out there in the market? What if I combine everyone together and make a bigger workflow? So I did some more experiments and try to build this workflow, right? Obviously, there is no centralized trigger over here because I removed it. Obviously, if I want to execute this workflow, so I'll create this kind of a node over here, the trigger over here. Let's say I can say cron, or maybe any trigger, like anything that trigger this workflow, I can put it over here, right? Maybe I can write a form, like some action items that if that happens, that this entire workflow would start executing. But just for the explanation, let me talk about how I did it. So you see, this is the same RSS feed that we talked about earlier, and same goes with the Stack Overflow, and same goes with the Reddit. But there is some change over here, and that is the GitHub. Obviously, there is a lot of story behind this. I did a lot of back and forth. I initially tried to play with the URL and try to put together the RSS feed of GitHub, but it's not working out. It was not returning or picking up the information through an RSS feed. So it's very important for you to understand, not every community has a built-in RSS URL that helps you to quickly fetch the information from that website. So if that is not there, n8n has an alternative solution, and that is HTTP request. So HTTP request is used when you want to call the data which is not available over here in n8n. When I say call the data not available in n8n, I'm talking about the nodes. For example, over here I can just type the RSS feed trigger and I can insert the RSS URL like the way it's being done over here, and this thing would help when I execute the workflow. RSS link would extract the information from that respective website for us into the funnel. But that's not the case with the GitHub. So for that purpose, what I did is I need to create the HTTP request. Right? This HTTP request is used when the nodes are not available in n8n and you need to use an external API or you need to use an external link to integrate into the system. So that's why we used HTTP request. So what I did with HTTP request, it's a simple get. This is the API URL of GitHub. You can see the n8n and issues. Now this is the exact URL which is there on the on the GitHub regarding n8n.io. n8n.io is a dedicated page over there on GitHub, and then I just put certain condition open and per page 20. Right, so this way I extracted all of that information. You need to put these values over here, user agent n8n. Right, this way all the information on GitHub related to the n8n would be fetched from here. Rest will go to the RSS stack flow. So the Stack Overflow doesn't have again the native RSS URL. We tried the similar sort of URL on GitHub too, but GitHub was too restricted to pass on that information. However, it worked on Stack Overflow. Let's say if Stack Overflow would have create a problem for us, we would have been using the the HTTP request over here as well. But in that case, we need to see if the Stack Overflow has its own API as well. If that is not there, then we won't be having any information. So alternatively, we tried to make some changes in the URL that says tags, tag names n8n, like any post or any tag or any post over there on their community that has a tag of n8n, and obviously the newest, the most latest one. So this is the simple tag that we use. I guess that would be enough to get the information from. And same goes with the Reddit. You see over here, Reddit. But obviously for Reddit, we tried to give this experiment. It didn't work out. I'll explain you how it will going to be executed. Again, the same function that we used previously, the normalize function, to get the information in a correct form, in a proper form. As I said, return items, map it, title, blurb, and the snippet. Right? This is the same thing that we used in the previous. This field is important to merge the sources, all of these sources together, pass it on to the detect intent. Now, what is detect intent? This is a very intelligent node built in n8n that helps you to fetch the intent of the post that you are fetching from the respective community. So here you see I have made some changes. Error, timeouts, API, help, issues, not, this is a kind of a keyword that I put over there. It's just an experiment. I can add more. And to return these keywords back to us in this format. This is what it says. The first part, constant keywords, and then to return this information with this form over here. Why it says null? When they do not find anything, it returns the post in a null format. Right? So let's go back to the final step. Now, what this process is all about, this is a kind of a tricky step, and why we used it, let me explain it in detail. When you fetch the information from different sources like this, and this, and when you forward all that information, when you merged all of them together and put them into detect intent, there is a chance that a crawler or the workflow would bring the same URL again and again into your Slack. So for that purpose, we use deduplication. Deduplication means that you filter out those URLs that you don't want to be included in your final output, because this way you will be cluttered with the same information, repeated information again and again. And why we use Postgres? Because it records the history as well. Like there are so many other databases as well that we can use alternatively over here, but with those information, with those methods, first, it takes more time, like Google Sheet and stuff. Second, some nodes, some database nodes do not record history. Like if it runs today, it would it won't record the history that this URL, they have already passed this URL yesterday, so they will again pass the URL again today. That's not what we want. If we've seen some URL, we don't want that same URL or the same post to come back again and again every day whenever the cron job runs. So that's why we put this deduplication. It's a very interesting tool, it's a very intelligent tool that you can do it. And how you can do it, simply you need to add Postgres over here. You see, this is a Postgres. There are other options too, such as MySQL and so on. But there is a typical process of adding tables into it that I'll explain again in a later form. So there are a couple of things that we have parked it in this workflow in this video. First is what is the value of RSS feed, how this URL is being used. Second, we need to talk about the Postgres or MySQL or any form of database and why they are and how they are different from each other, right? And finally, the Slack note, where you are getting that information. But again, I feel after making this workflow, I felt something is wrong. Why? Let me explain you. For example, here is a post for Reddit, right? And if I am fetching information from Reddit pertaining to the keywords that says timeout, so there could be a post related to football. Maybe some people are talking about the football and they say the timeout. So it would also fetch that the post into my Slack. Obviously this is not relevant. This is not something that I want. I want to talk about the issues. I want to get the information around the issues that people are facing in their workflows. Let's say the timeout error. There are different kind of errors that people face while they are running their workflows, either on Zapier, either on make.com, either on n8n. So I want to see what kind of challenges they are facing, and if I could jump in and add some value for those users and help them to solve that mystery. But if this detect intent is being used here at once, that means this entire methodology is being applied on all of the sources that are being fetched here. The second problem that I thought would be there, it doesn't have the flexibility in this URL to change anything. For example, if I run it at once, it will everything would be run at once, and I cannot change anything, and it would clutter everything. The last but not the least is a Slack message. Imagine I have a Slack channel. Obviously I need to give a Slack whenever you are inserting a Slack channel, you need to give a channel into it where you want that information to be fetched. Like in a Slack, you have multiple people that you talk to. You create multiple channels. So system asks where exactly you want that information to be forwarded. So you need to give them a Slack channel, a specific channel for that purpose, where you want all of that information or the leads to be stored at. So I thought, like, if I'm using one channel and if it starts pulling all the information from all the fold sources, this would again make it very cluttered for me, because I won't be sure, like I would going to navigate each and every post to see which post came from n8n and which one, because where the post is coming from gives you a better contextual idea. If it is coming from n8n directly, it's super relevant. But if somewhat is coming from the Reddit, so you have to double check whether it's relevant or not, right? So I want that information not to be cluttered in one place, and I want that information to be split amongst different channels, which is possible only if I create a separate channel nodes. I was even thinking of maybe rerouting that information. I mean, I can create if and then statement over here. I can play with other JSON files to route that information. Maybe I can create a database of RAG over here where I can fetch all the information and plug them into one database, and then from there I can maybe ask an AI to artificially align those information and put them into relevant Slack. This could be done, but that would going to create more mess, and again the detect intent would be there. So I thought, why not, I should change it and make it more streamlined. That's where this workflow comes into play. This is the same workflow that I was talking about, the cron job that I was talking about, the trigger that you run and your workflow would execute. Suppose, let me execute this workflow. It start running. First and passed on the information, picking up the information, and forwarding all the information over here. So if you could see, if I could go back to the Slack, this is where I'm getting all the fetched information. I need to play with some settings over here to get the information from. The moment I run the trigger, it start giving me the information in my Slack. So let me start doing it one by one. The first process is exactly the same, the one that we discussed earlier, normalized forum. I already talked about it. The intent, obviously, again, the different. I have used different keywords for Stack Overflow, GitHub, and use different keywords for n8n forum, because if I pick n8n, obviously the timeout makes sense, or Zapier or webhooks or trial and error makes sense, because every post which is there on n8n talking about trial and error, it's super relevant. But that's not the case in GitHub. There could be multiple problem statement that people were talking about. So that's why the intent signal needs to be different, right? And if you could see over here, it's passing me all the information. You can even see it, what sort of information, like you see node with the same UUID. If I trigger node, two workflows have the same trigger, the earlier activated trigger. You see, these are the kind of the bugs, these are the kind of the issue people are facing in the community in their respective mode, and we are getting that information very easily, right? So this is a gold mine information that you could have, and it can easily passed on to them. And then deduplication, we added all that information into respective channels, and I created a separate Slack channel for each of you can say the community, right? This n8n would pass the information from here, and it would store it in the n8n community in my respective Slack channel. Similarly, for the GitHub, it would forward that information into the GitHub. I would talk about, now all the information is coming over here, but the job is not end here, because I have some other plans from here. I wanted to create a RAG engine that fetch the information. Obviously this information is stored there, I can go and check it anytime I want to, but I want that information to be picked from here and stored into a database, where a database has a functionality of an AI. That AI would pick up the right information and forward me the hot lead. Not every lead, not every issue is a kind of a hot lead. So I want the hot leads to be separated. Second advantage that I could have from this workflow is to use this community information to create a LinkedIn post, to create a blog article, or even to create an outreach email. I can create a system, I can give a prompt to an AI to write a relevant outreach email based on the market needs, based on the market requirements, based on the market problems, the user problems and challenges that they are facing in an n8n, and how we can solve it. This way, the information would be relevant, information would exactly to the point talk about the pain points of the user rather than a sales pitch, and it would run on an auto system, because I have a plan to add the CRM into the same function, and then to add the email trigger option as well. So this way it would become an entire ecosystem. This ecosystem would then be run from the community, all automated. I don't have to do anything. The system would be so intelligent that it would pick up anything from the community and would run multiple functions: writing blogs, writing LinkedIn posts, writing content ideas, writing email addresses, and even fetching the leads from me. And even I can do something, and that is to give my credits, my credentials of n8n or GitHub community or Stack Overflow, to even go to that respective thread and reply artificially or intelligently about that problem statement, based on what I feed into my database or into my prompts. So hope you like this concept. Obviously you need to play with it quite a lot, but with this explanation you would get an idea how you can use communities, runtime communities, to create the leads from, to create the content ideas from, and your whole marketing function would run from it. So thank you so much. We'll get back to you again.